All right. Okay, let's get settled in with a little bit of meditation. So begin attending to the body in the space, and by extension, the mind. You might also think of it in reverse. Start attending to the mind, and by extension, the body. You might even begin contemplating and meditating on the simultaneous nature of these things. Even as we cast our attention on the body in general or parts of the body and start to bring calm, start to bring balance, bring ease. The direction is coming from the mind, and the calm and ease exists in the mind. We might attend to different aspects of our posture, like making sure the shoulders aren't creeping up with tension in the upper back and neck. Let the face be relaxed, be smooth. Sometimes, even in sitting, we can recognize tension in the hips. As much as we can, let go of the tension throughout the hips and in the abdomen. Let the abdomen relax, allowing space for the coming and going of the breath. The nice thing about focusing throughout the body and the breath is we don't have to get tied into concepts so much. We can practice our training of attention in a realm that generally we can find a relatively neutral aspect. There may be parts of the body, parts of parts of the body that bring up difficult ideas, but generally somewhere within the body and breath we can find something to train our attention on that is neutral. And maybe as we bring ease, well-being, refreshment to that aspect of this being, we can sort of coax the other parts along. And that's why I practice sometimes starting very simply. Make that feel like it's somewhat level. Okay. We're all warmed up or cooled down or whatever needed to happen. Okay, we have 28 joined, 17 here now. I don't know what that means still to this day. It's a new, I guess they joined and some left. I don't know. Here now. Well, thank you, Michelle. Glad you liked it. So, well, for anyone who's new, I usually like to say a couple different times. Our format is that short meditation that we just did, presentation of subject matter and discussion, and then another meditation. So I list this live session under the category of guided meditation. Talks is another choice, but it's both. So good morning, Mark from California. Welcome. So I'll present a little bit from the description that you may have read to bring yourself here. I named this live session Haphazard Attention. I don't remember what made me think of it. It usually just starts with a title, and then I'll read you my description that you may have read already, and then the rambling trains of thought that came from that idea, just as a presentation for you to open up discussion, basically. So, haphazard attention. If our attention is haphazard instead of intentional, we are too easily led around by the nose, like dogs with their favorite toy. We must attain a basic grasp of the impulses of our being, or we are adrift, rudderless, and susceptible to dark forces. So, there's so many angles to take this. First thing I like to say, and I always liked when people said things like this, the fact that we're here means our attention isn't completely haphazard, right? We've made some intentional choice to do something about being intentional, right? So it's a practice, it's a continuum, perhaps, of, there's ups and downs. Sometimes there's a couple steps forward, some steps back. We find ourselves, captured by things. What they call that? There's all kinds of that's become a new hyphenation. Corporate capture, etc. Anyway, but attention capture. It's one of the big things in the Buddhist tradition is the guarding of the sense doors, or just the senses. Just going to mention it quickly. I've done whole talks on the senses. In the Buddhist tradition, there are six. The five that that we are used to, plus the mind. I mean, it's said in different ways, but the easiest way to think about it as a sense is that the same way the nose smells or the eyes see, the mind thinks. Um, and also, it's not just one way. It has to do with what's coming in as well. So we might guard the sense door of our vision by not watching TV, but like right away you say, oh, I'm also guarding the sense door of my mind, or what I put on the TV. It's going to be the sense door of the hearing. And so you get the point. And just the image of the guard, and it's just a good way to meditate sometimes. Like sometimes, like, I don't know what I'm going to meditate about. Or maybe you just have a regular meditation that you do all the time and you always know, but as a little variation, you might be like, oh, what about doing a little guarding of the sense doors meditation, or guarding of the sense doors drive to work, something like that. So another thing about haphazard attention would be make, so the word attention and intention kind of tend to, they kind of come together a lot of times. So a lot of careful enunciation, but so making intentions clear. Because in a way, having no intention is letting our intentionality be taken over by, again, this ties back in with the guarding of the sense doors. And it could be that you have a neutral, maybe it doesn't have to be super defined, but I usually say, like, at bare minimum, we can bring goodwill. That's one of our favorite phrases, or metta. If we can have that be our underlying intention, the wish for well-being, then so that's the general. But you can also hone that into specific intentions too, right? So another thing, asking good questions. What's shaping me right now? How am I being shaped over time? It's probably a good little journaling exercise, even. What's shaping me, even in this moment. And you can feel, if we can partially quiet our minds, you can usually feel the creep of things. At the beginning, I'll often talk about gathering ourselves. We gather together and we also gather the mind, but the remnants and the momentum of the mind, you can definitely see, especially if you've gotten some stillness. And to me, it kind of feels like it's going down a drain. It's like this circling of momentum. So that's the sort of some remnants of what has been shaping us, what's been the momentum of our day and of our mind. And then good role models. I was thinking as another one, who we relate with in general, but also you sort of, I guess it's another thing, you kind of end up with role models. Like either you choose them or they just happen. Like the mind sort of looks up to somebody. Like, and of course, here we talk about the Buddhist teachings. We talk about Jesus' teachings. So different things from the Bible and from the Pali Canon come up quite a bit. And there's people. There's all kinds of people in all of those things. It's funny. Like I meditate. My tradition I teach a lot here comes from the Buddha's tradition, especially in terms of how to use attention in meditation. In some ways, I find Jesus more relatable Whereas, Buddha lived like a monk with quite ascetic rules, not going to music shows, not eating after noon. Jesus was immersed in the real world, um, went to weddings. We probably won't be going to weddings and turning water into wine, but um, I think the main idea, no matter who you choose, is kind of like there's this underlying spiritual purpose, right? In all these, whether they were doing everyday things or other things, there was something underlying that was honing their attention, making it not at all haphazard. These were not haphazard people, very intentional. And yeah, spiritual literature of all kinds are have people like that. And then the world as well does. You probably have people in your life you look to and say, wow, that's someone who seems quite intentional. What are they doing? How are they doing that? So look in the world for examples that work for you. Um, and I was thinking about how we sort of gauge, and it's like kind of simply using our feelings. We talk about feeling tone sometimes, and it's kind of like that, um, whether it's positive, negative, or neutral. But I was thinking more kind of like the intuition, maybe something in between those two things, vibes almost. There's an initial feeling when you encounter a situation or a person. Like there's just that. There always is an initial feeling, um, and it's kind of a combination of what they're doing and your internal environment. So um, now, what do we have control over? We don't have control over what they're doing. Um, we have control over our internal environment to some degree. So if our internal environment is unhealthy, our interpretation is going to be skewed. So, do I think that person's a jerk because I have this energy, I got up on the wrong side of the bed or whatever it is, you know, just more questions, lots of questions to ask as we approach these things. And it's, we don't need to burden ourselves always with the ideas. That's not necessarily what I mean by intentionality. But if we found we're having difficult situation, so, and then the lingering vibes too, how we feel in the aftermath. Um, because if we're constantly feeling under siege, we might need to retreat to the extent that we can gain some composure in ourselves. Um, and then make that redetermination, like what situations need to be avoided or dealt with more provisionally, instead of being wide open. We talked about this for over the holidays too, right? Um, so I wanted to close because it kind of went well with the whole thing, tied where my mind went at the end there with the feelings and the. It's so this is from Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians 4:11. You also aspire to lead a quiet life, to mind your own business, and to work with your own hands as we commanded you, that you may walk properly toward those who are outside, and that you may lack nothing. Um, so it has kind of a self-sufficiency vibe to it, that quote. Um, and obviously, we are all quite in need of others, but generally these things are about the heart. I mean, they talk about like working with your hands and things like that, but um, ultimately it comes down to how we bring our heart into those things. We want to be an example for others to see. We want people to come into the room and have that up feeling, like we want to lighten the room, right? We don't, you know what I'm saying? So, okay, I'm going to read your stuff. I've been going on and on and on. In a way, Judas saying, in a way of looking at attention to see it as an investment or maybe deployment of our presence. I like that. Yeah, both are really good depending on what you're inclined to. Yeah, I really like deploying intention. That's cool. Like And it goes with that, like like with that Thessalonians quote, going out into the world, you're deploying it out. Um, Dealt with mine provisionally, like the investment idea of Jude's. I relate to that being a benefit. Yeah, so yeah, from the investment standpoint as well, like you may have been giving somebody everything they asked all the time. That definitely happens. Like you find a lot of times it's a pattern. I've definitely seen it with people with siblings. I don't have any siblings. I've seen it where there's just the pattern, and it's like years and years later, like 20, 30, 40 years later, it's like, wow, it's the same. There's a strong feeling of guilt when we realize we've invested in something wasteful. Yeah. Um, and then there's the danger of, when you after you've dug yourself a hole, find yourself in a hole, stop digging, what's that called? Throwing good money after bad. There's another term I'm looking for, but where we dig ourselves deeper because of some momentum, maybe the guilt, like we are having trouble admitting, possibly. But what we really need to do is stop, and also, and then at that point, maybe resolve not to make that mistake further, but certainly not beat ourselves up on it, because then we are digging another hole there. Oh, it's the something fallacy. It's a sunk cost fallacy. That's it. It's like I think gamblers kind of get into that. Gamble, that could be another another metaphor, maybe a simile, like gambling. Hopefully, with somewhat better odds than than casinos, because as we know, the house always wins. And maybe it's what house we're dealing with too. Like, so if we could really take that gambling metaphor, uh, different places, yeah. Which I recommending here, possibly the house of Buddhist thought, or the house of Christian thought, or things like that, as opposed to the house of materialist, or I like the money pit of the mind. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'm interior decorating right now, though, I have to say. Like, I'm looking at a different area. I'm like, I could clear that out. I'm going to look so pro. You guys are going to think I have sponsors. So, how's it going out there? A plant, yeah. Actually, I was looking at. I had a vase of fake flowers, and it had a plant too, but one was like too small, and the other one was too big. But I can make it work with a little bit more planning, because I only had a short amount of time when I found out that I was not going to be in portrait mode. So yes, I have a big aloe plant. That would be kind of cool if I could find the right place for it. See, a very challenging circumstance is when you give your undivided attention to someone, yet they aren't hearing a word you say. That is absolutely. And generally, like the opposite side of that, I have that experience. Um, I don't know. Depending on, I tend to be the quiet person in most of my relationships, except for like one or two that I'm the more talkative one. Which it doesn't matter. Like that doesn't actually have to come up with what you're saying. Like because someone be perfectly willing to listen to me as well as talk. They just happen to talk more. There are other times where um, you can just feel that they're doing the dump. They It doesn't matter what your reactions are, all those things. So yeah, that is challenging, and yeah, I've been in that one, and it has definitely made me less inclined to be around that person. I think I've moved in that direction. Um, so the sense door of the mind is the sixth sense in the Buddhist tradition. Just the five normal senses plus the mind. The sense doors, each of the senses are a sense door. Just thinking of them as portals, as doors, like the mind, and yeah, what goes in and out through them. If that makes sense. Uh, so, like in kind of like modern New Age idea of the sixth sense is right, like intuition is sort of maybe telepathy and stuff like that. But yeah, this one it's a little bit more more simple. There is a place uh, there's stuff in the Buddhist literature of um, extra sensory stuff, but yeah, proprioception is interesting in that it's almost like our subconscious paying attention. Yeah, that is it, especially when doing the part of the meditation that's sensing the posture. Getting into that idea is definitely cool. Like sensing your body in space and like trying to sense how it senses. It's a good. It's a That would be a fairly safe middle of the day contemplation. If other ones are sort of trying to override our peace, you know, like what's my body like sensing itself in space right now? Amazing. See, Leslie's saying it can be a challenge to stay present and not judge. The mind wants to constantly assess. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, it's interesting because like to come up with a presentation, I do a lot of assessment, like thinking, and but so I try to like throw in little disclaimers, like this isn't necessarily you're not supposed to burden your mind with all these ideas all at once. It's just it's a series of tools, right? Um, right. Okay. Our subconscious is paying attention. That's another. That's a nice part of the problem. Perhaps is the when our attention becomes haphazard. When we're not when we allow it to be pulled by less wholesome forces, uh, then it gets covered. And we don't really know what's going on. being led astray. Yeah, the mind's a labeling machine. I like that. Yeah, that's so it's one of the definitions of when they are saying perception, like yeah, the way we label things, like as far as being like right on the tip. So it's a good part of one of the things that we can meditate with, if we can gain sufficient calmness so that we can see it happening in real time, and then that maybe gives us a chance to put a lasso on it for in our day-to-day life. See, if we have a strong foundation, hopefully we can bring the monkey mind back to a more focused, calm, present state. Yeah, definitely. Because part of the thinking the mind as one of the senses is it's we're not we don't gouge our eyes out because we don't like what we see. Um, the mind is going to think and it's going to do these things. We want it to do them in line with what is good, what is in line with our intentions. So, like you say, if we can make it focused, calm, present, it's still going to do what it does, right? It'll be doing some labeling. That's an in-breath. This is a type of labeling that the Buddha recommends. This is the end of the in-breath. This is the beginning of the out-breath, you know? Yeah. Moving beyond concepts is extraordinarily difficult. And again, like I think first, if we can first move into the kind of concepts that don't make the mind crazy, it might be easier to let go. So very simple concepts. How does the body feel in this space? You know, see Perrin saying, the mind ego wants control from a place of fear and crucially wants to make itself bigger, either inflate with overconfidence or deflate itself with not good enough. Both are from a place of lack and fear. We just need to see this and it stops the cycle. So hard when triggered or tired. Right. And that's why, I mean, the only argument I would make with that is um, if we just need to see what it is, but if we can't, I think getting there is this practice in a way. Like I was saying, that we can't just say concepts are bad or the mind is bad and does bad. Like we have to say, oh, but we do have some control over where the mind focuses and what concepts it focuses on, right? So it's kind of like baby steps, you know. Um, there are a lot of traditions that that don't really do, or they very much don't focus on the small steps so much. Just mindfulness of in and out breathing, things like that. Um, I haven't found them to work for me. Just the idea of that, you know. Yeah. Leslie's saying, in the moment, if we can catch ourselves, we might have a chance to return to center. Yeah. And we need to practice catching ourselves. Like, how do we catch ourselves? We do it by seeing what's popping off in the mind moment by moment by moment, you know. I just had another thing and it just slipped out. Got away from me. That probably happens all the time. Shell saying, wait, did I miss another one? Shoot. Sorry. Agreed, parent. The mind, ego, is afraid of its demise. Should we ever possibly become constantly aware, present? Yet the mind has a purpose to function in everyday life. It still fears ongoing. It'll become dominated, it seems. Yeah, it is. Yeah, the mind, the ego sort of struggle. Yeah, and there's a good point of it's the idea of its demise. We all fear death to some degree, but the ego fears a different kind of death awareness of ours. We don't need its jabbering so much. Listening meditation practice is interesting when we can hear without naming the source. Cool. Trying to keep up here. Let's see. Can become training, repeating this process of seeing, catching, then stopping cycle. As you know, it'll sneak its insidious head again. Yeah, training. Yeah. So it's why also there's aspects of the meditation that are just sort of refuge, in a way. I think of setting up of the body. I guess it's being able to see it. This kind of a simultaneous thing when the body becomes calm and refreshed. First, we can see like what the mind is doing, but we care less. I think that's part of it too. It's like where it's not the mind is not going to stop making the offers. It's what we. It's not care. It's not really the right word. Or we can discern between the ones that are important and actionable and the ones that are, neurotic or, you know, compassion toward ourselves and others might also help when we or others are having a particularly scattered day. Oh, definitely, absolutely. Absolutely going hand in hand with goodwill. There is suffering that we cannot remedy right now. That's always the case, I think. So, which it's a big cause for compassion to arise. Asking ourselves, wait, is that a side? Is that from before, dominated or redundant? I'm not picking up on. Wait, see. Sorry. We can hear. Okay. Asking ourselves during triggers, am I aware? Can help catch this. Oh, cool. Rupert Spira. Yeah. Or in the middle of a trigger, going to, where do I feel this in my body? What is my breath doing? You know, sometimes something even like more specific and, you know, and it's completely and even less judgment than am I simply aware? Like you just say, what am I? I'm aware of something for sure. What's my breath doing? Like a completely neutral question. Let's see, Leslie saying, yes, parent, it's like training a puppy. We have to repeatedly bring it back and do so with kindness. Totally. Yeah, that's a very nice exercise. The awareness, you remember, oh, I am doing that thing. This is harm. We must come back. Gentle persuasion rather than angry admonishment. Yeah. It's just part of being human that we will not be perfect. We will fail and accepting that is a huge part of it all. Absolutely. More like a puppy with ADHD. Leslie, as dogs eventually learn the right way through training, egos don't. Yeah. Yeah. Patience is key for the practice. And practice is key for patience, I might add. Andrea saying, I struggle with not taking on extreme negativity from people when I have to spend prolonged time with them. Any tips? Yeah. Yeah. That's almost kind of like what the whole thing is about. It's probably some work at home, knowing that this is going to arise for sure. I like the idea of sending my goodwill ahead of myself. If you do any meta practice, goodwill practice, or even if you haven't, I mean, you can do it right now. Uh, that I know that there are all these circumstances in my life that are going to arise, or even if I have one later in the day, it's even more specific, like of sending, like, may they be happy, may they be at peace, so that they don't have in like so you're building up that intention in your heart by creating the goodwill in yourself by sending that to them. um, that's going to set up a better situation for you, at least. And maybe, who knows, maybe it will affect what's going on with them. um, in the situation itself, it's hard for me to say, not knowing the specifics. It's just sometimes boundary setting is appropriate within a situation. You know, finding other spaces in the area that for reflection. Outside areas that there's a thing that I do. I use outside areas when other people aren't using them because I like to be outside. So I'll just go out and walk around and find a little tree that looks cool and get some fresh air. And where were you? I was like, yeah, outside, just doing a thing. So, all right, we talked pretty long. I want to give us a chance to do another meditation because I do have to stop on time today. Thank you all very much for your input. I hope you liked the topic. Um, yes, thank you, Michelle. The Mark Selinsky Live group is the InsightTimer group where we continue our discussions from here and also just share other things. It's where this community kind of keeps things going in a public way. Um, so join us. And also, follow me on InsightTimer and listen to the meditations and courses and stuff, and leave your comments because they're helpful to me. So one of the things that came right to mind is the idea of duration. So how long does the imposing, the offending thought persist? The most obvious answer is that it keeps coming back, or it's kind of there all the time. They're different ones. They're chained together. If we're having a basically difficult time, that seems to be the case. It's like handing off. But the nice thing about training the mind to see the bodily things, the breath, it gets used to more subtle shifts. Like if we are really focusing on all the way through the in breath and all the way through the out breath, and for an extended period of time, we have in mind this is, if someone asked you at any given moment, this is during an in breath. Oh, this is the transition between the in and out breath. So the mind that can do that can see the sneakiness of, as it is put today, the ego, say. So it puts out a thought that will, get us to go into action in some way. And we may catch the idea and say that's not a great idea, but we might get pulled in. I should do this. I shouldn't do this. So in the fight for your well-being, how strong is that the opposing voice? How long does it resonate? And can we listen for the end of it ringing and then do what we know to be in our best interest for our long-term well-being? If we meditate in terms of feeling tones, we can think we are generally either moving toward that which brings pleasure, or moving away from that which brings pain. But the Buddha gave us some simple ways to incline toward that which is wholesome and good, and not in a way that takes away from others, harms ourselves. The simple pleasure of the rising and falling breath, the sensation in the body of energy moving, nourishing. It's happening all the time. The body is being hosted in this realm somehow, miraculously. Therefore, it's being nourished constantly. Can we tap into that nourishment and just sense it, appreciate it, bring up feelings of refreshment and also feelings of gratitude? And truly, if we find ourselves housed with food, water, air to breathe, where our cup overflows, we're getting our heart to be in that space to feel it. It's like we say sometimes, it already is. As Kay said, the subconscious already knows. But it's veiled. So we just take these time to just take a little peek. No matter how small, the sensation of well-being, sensation of fullness, of gratitude and generosity, the potential to arise and fill this being. We're bursting at the seams with goodness, with fortune. If we find ourselves in a situation like this, very likely. So just at the end, let's just send our wish for well-being forward ahead of us in all the encounters we may have, in the first few moments that we leave meditation, the rest of the day, in our week, in our life. Let our goodwill pave the way that we might bring goodness wherever we go. Hmm. Interesting, Baron. I'll have to think about that. Thanks, Jude. Thank you, Michelle. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah. What did I miss? What? Yeah, cool. So, uh, I'm off. I'm not around next Sunday, so we will have a week in between where you guys will sure we'll find another way to practice on Sunday morning or afternoon. Uh, Thank you very much, Leslie and Leela, and thank you all for being here. Come join us once again at the Mark Zelinsky live group, and yeah, we will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks so much. Bless you.